Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is in primitive style. It is thus that some delegates travel. The subheadline says, Novel and instructive features of the Great National Convention. Prairie Schooners will be seen in abundance. A popular populist delegate. It says, the most extraordinary spectacle in the history of great national conventions will be witnessed this year in connection with the gathering of the leaders of the democracy at Kansas City. A great number of the delegates to the convention, instead of going there in Pullman sleeping cars or even in the ordinary day coaches, will start for Kansas City many days or weeks beforehand and slowly wend their way across the country in old-fashioned prairie schooners. Just as the 49ers going to California after the discovery of gold fitted out wagons with beds, stoves, and every road necessity, so these delegates to the Kansas City Convention will stream across the prairie in canvas-covered wagons, many bearing on their sides the legend 16-1. Never before have delegates to a great party gathering for the nomination of a presidential candidate gone to the meeting place in such primitive style as this. Andrew Jackson was nominated at a convention where there was a considerable affectation of simplicity, but little real poverty. Many of the delegates rode there on horseback, but these were gentlemen riding blooded animals, carrying silver flasks of old whiskey, and many of them with money to burn at the wayside inns, where they stopped and indulged in games of chance. Far different are the men now preparing prairie schooners in Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, and Arkansas. They are determined to show the convention what real democracy is, according to their light. One of the schemes for doing this is to camp out in Kansas City and live in the prairie schooner, instead of in the hotels during the convention. One Western leader has stated that this will be a stronger protest against plutocracy than any of the speeches made at the convention, and that in seeing these hardy sons of toil actually living on 10 cents a day, too poor even to stop at a hotel, although representing thousands of taxpayers, the Eastern delegates will have forcibly brought home to them who were really the people. It is likewise estimated that, aside from the delegates from all over the neighboring country who will flock to the convention in prairie schooners, many hundred of spectators will likewise adopt this extraordinary means of visiting the city. Of course, the great reason why nothing like this has ever before been witnessed is that this year, for the first time in history, a national convention of one of the two great parties will be held west of the Mississippi. It would have been impossible for prairie schooner delegates to go to the conventions at St. Louis, Chicago, or Cincinnati. Many people in Bleeding, Kansas, and the adjoining states and territories are now rejoicing at the opportunity presented to them of giving the East a practical object lesson in modern local conditions. Shortgrass country. There is in western Kansas what is known as the shortgrass country, so called from the short curly buffalo grass that grows here. This is the country of droughts, hot winds, deserted towns, and burst booms. If a man can live in the shortgrass country, he is sturdy indeed. Some men do live in it and prosper in a way, and these will be part of the prairie schooner delegation. Conditions are exceedingly hard in the shortgrass country, and men become accustomed to hard fare and harder journeys. A silver dollar looks pretty big out there, and a man will endure considerable hardship before he will spend one for purely physical comfort. These people are accustomed to long wagon journeys, and make them with less discomfort than many a city man would experience in a day coach or a slow train. For years they have been accustomed to go about the country from one state to another, or from county to county, as crops failed or seasons were bad. They loaded their possessions into wagons and trekked across the prairies. When they found a new locality that suited them, they hired a farm, planted their seed, and worked the farm until another bad crop came. Then they packed again and moved on. These in the West are called movers. Moving has become a habit with them. Many of the men who have become more or less prominent in Oklahoma politics went there from Kansas in a mover's wagon, as the modern prairie schooner is called in that country. Arkansas and southern Missourians, the Ozark mountain folk, rude, proud, and as full of fight and radical views as their mountain brethren of Kentucky or the Carolinas, are famous movers also, and their religion is free silver. The farmer delegates of Colorado and western Nebraska may have moved at some time from Kansas, Oklahoma, or Arkansas, footing until they found a congenial soil and prosperity. These folks used to traveling the roads in wagons, will be the Prairie Schooner delegates and visitors. Not all too poor to buy tickets. It is not to be supposed that all those who journey to Kansas City in July in Prairie Schooners are too poor to buy railroad tickets and pay hotel bills. Many of them will be prosperous farmers and merchants, the political leaders in the farming districts of the new country. They will travel to the convention in wagons, camping by the roadside, and going from their camps in the city to their seats in the convention, to show the world at large, and the delegates from the East in particular, that they are true exponents of Jeffersonian democracy and simplicity. They will, they say, be a living protest against college graduates, cigarettes, Pullman cars, and plutocracy. The Prairie Schooner is a curious yet simple vehicle, and it all depends upon the ingenuity and taste of the owner, how comfortable it may be. It's made of an ordinary farm wagon, fitted with oak bows, over which a wagon cloth of canvas is stretched. If the owner is rich enough, or sufficiently ingenious, he will fit the interior with a grub box, a looking glass, and many other conveniences. In the wagon will be a sheet iron stove, with as many iron and tin cooking utensils as are necessary for the simple cuisine of the individual or party. These wagons will likely be provisioned on the farm, with home-cured side meat, potatoes, and cornmeal, sufficient to last until the convention is over and home is reached once more. Thus the cost of the journey will be practically nothing. From Oklahoma to Kansas City is about 300 miles. Railroad passenger rates are 3 cents a mile in that country, and it is not likely that they will be reduced. Thus the Oklahoma delegate or visitor coming a distance of 300 miles would have to spend about $20 for his passage, and almost as much as that in hotel bills in Kansas City. If he goes by wagon, he can take his family along without any additional cost. He and his family and team will consume no more food on the road than they would at home. The journey to Kansas City will consume 10 or 12 days. A farm team can make about 25 miles a day for 10 days on the level prairie roads. And after a rest of 3 or 4 days in Kansas City, be ready to go the same gait again on the return trip. A journey by wagon from the adjoining states to Kansas City will be regarded much in the light of a picnic by these people. Wagon journeying is a popular way of spending the summer vacation in the West. Parties go from Kansas City down into Arkansas, Oklahoma, or the Indian Territory in wagons fitted for the purpose, and often travel 1,000 miles before their holiday is ended. Something of a picnic. The Prairie Schooner delegates will jog on the roads comfortably, meeting with their kind at crossroads and camping in parties by the roadside at night. When they stop for the night, they will set up their sheet iron stoves out of doors and cook their simple food, roll up in their blankets when dark comes, and get underway again at sunrise. But it will be a hot and dusty journey along the shadeless prairie roads, and the Prairie Schooner delegates will doubtless be very glad to go into camp for a few days when they reach the convention city. In Kansas City, these wanderers will go into camp on the vacant lots near the convention hall. In the city, they will sleep in their wagons, but cook out of doors, in true camp style, and it is possible that they will be more comfortable than their brethren in the hot and crowded hotels. A feature of the parades in Kansas City during the convention will be a section composed of Prairie Schooners with banners on their sides, bearing Democratic slogans of more or less intensity. This will arouse the enthusiasm of the Westerners and amaze the Eastern men. One of the most remarkable delegates to a national convention is the Westchester County, New York, populist representative, Captain George W. Lloyd. Captain Lloyd originally came from Alabama, and during the war, he was known in New Rochelle as the Rebel. In 1864, he disappeared, and it was not until after the war that it was learned that he had been a spy in the Confederate Army. He returned to New Rochelle when the war was over, badly wounded. In spite of the fact that Captain Lloyd was a Confederate spy, he is now an ardent American. He is one of the commissioners of Hudson Park in New Rochelle, and has erected a flagstaff and placed a cannon there, which he fires on all national holidays. He is a Boer sympathizer, and during the Cuban Revolution, he sold Cuban coffee to aid the Cuban cause. Captain Lloyd is more than 80 years old, but extremely vigorous and energetic. In him, the East will furnish quite as picturesque a character as a convention delegate as any that will come out of the West. When he passed through New Rochelle on his way to the convention, he was dressed in a long linen duster, and his head was covered with a big straw hat, with the legend 16-1 painted on the front. This story came from the great state of New York, being reported in the Altamont Enterprise of May 25th, 1900. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.